What up mga idolo? For today's video, we're going to overhaul exhaust valve actuator. As usual, before overhauling, we must 100% sure that we have the spares that we need. Aside from that, we need also to print out the manual for our reference or a guide. So let's start the disassembling. First is to remove the top piece. In order to do that, you need to untighten the two Allen head screws. But of course, do not forget to clean it properly in order to avoid damage while loosening it. Once it is ready and clean, start loosening the two Allen head screws. After removing the two screws, use a proper lifting tool to lift up the top piece. A safety reminder to always double check your lifting tool if it is in good condition. Aside from that, be sure that the lifting tool you're using can handle the weight of what you are lifting. And lastly, do not ever use a lifting tool if no indication on how much safe working load it can handle, as this can cause injury or may be fatal. So let's go back to the video. Once the top piece is out, place it on the wooden plate. The next step is to remove the piston. But before we proceed, we need to remove the remaining oil inside the oil cylinder. Once everything is ready and clean, we can now start lifting up the inner piston. By the way, there are two ways to remove the inner piston. Either you can push it from the bottom or you can use this special tool to lift it up. So this is the inner piston of exhaust valve actuator. Once you remove it, place it in the wooden plate. The next step is to place the oil cylinder into slanting position so we can detach the bottom piece. And to remove it, you need to loosen the two Allen head screws. Again, let me remind you again to clean it properly before unscrewing it using an Allen key. And now, take out carefully the bottom piece. The next step is to remove the outer piston. So on the other side of the oil cylinder, you can push it to come out. And once you remove it, place it in the wooden plate. Now that the exhaust valve actuator is totally disassembled, we will now start cleaning every parts and prepare for assembling. Assembling will be a lot more easier if you did a good job in cleaning. And now that is ready, we will now start putting back together. First is to put in the outer piston. For smooth installation, I usually lubricate it with oil. As a result, it can go slide inside easily. The next step is to put back the bottom piece. But before we proceed, we need to install the sealing ring first. Important reminder is to double check in the manual if you are using the correct spare. And also be aware that to install it properly and it should not be twisted. Next is to put back the bottom piece. Be careful on installing it. The bottom piece is having a pin, and this pin must go to the correct hole. And this part must align to this part. Let's now proceed by putting it back. Once you place it properly, screw in the two Allen head screw to keep them together. And by the way, do not over tighten it. Hand tight is enough. The next step is to install the inner piston. But before that, move the oil cylinder upside down. Prepare the inner piston by lubricating it for smooth installation. And once everything is ready, you can slide it inside the oil cylinder. Before proceeding to the next step, please remove the special tool. Now we can fit the O-rings or sealing rings. By the way, I apologize for not using gloves because I want to feel the sealing rings if it is placed properly or not. And now that I'm satisfied, we will proceed to the next step. So the last step is to fit the top piece. Be aware that the screw plug on the top piece must be in line on the screw plug of the oil cylinder. Aside from that, this hole must match into this hole. Now install the top piece to the oil cylinder. And once you align it successfully, keep them together using the two Allen head screw. So tighten them back again. And after tightening the two screws, we are now successfully assembled the exhaust valve actuator.